There exists a universal truth about growth, an unwritten law that permeates every fiber of existence. For something new to flourish, something old must inevitably wither and give way. It's the wisdom of the seed that breaks open for the tree to sprout. It's the instinct of the caterpillar that dissolves in the cocoon for the butterfly to emerge. And it's the fundamental rule for us, human beings, in our journey of evolution. What I'm about to share with you is more than an idea. It's a compass for your own transformation. The moment you truly understand and internalize this principle, everything you thought you knew about your own potential, about your limits, and about what's possible for you, will become obsolete. The truth, raw and unvarnished, is this. The version of you that brought you here is, paradoxically, the same one that can prevent you from going beyond. Your old stories, your ingrained habits, your limiting beliefs, and even your most comfortable identity are like anchors that prevent you from sailing toward new horizons. They're not sitting there waiting for you to decode them. Instead, they're suspended in time, waiting for your consciousness to release them. This concept transcends superficial self-help. It's rooted in the very nature of growth and renewal. Just as a snake must shed its tight skin to continue growing, you too must strip away the layers of who you were to reveal who you're destined to be. Think about it. When a tree releases its leaves in autumn, it doesn't hold on to them out of fear of emptiness. It releases them with the innate confidence that winter is a period of rest and that spring will bring new life. If it tried to hold on to the dry leaves, there would be no space or energy for new growth. Similarly, if you cling to your old version, to the fears that defined you, the hurts that shaped you, the failures that stigmatized you, you prevent the arrival of new experiences, new opportunities, and, most importantly, a new version of yourself. You are not a helpless spectator in this cosmic dance of evolution. You weren't placed here to endure a predetermined story written by forces beyond your control. You are the conscious gardener of your own being, with the power to prune what no longer serves and nurture the seeds of your future. Most people get trapped in this cycle because without realizing it, they continue to reinforce the old version of themselves. Think in terms of your daily life now. Countless versions of your future exist simultaneously in the field of possibilities. There's a timeline where you're living the life of your dreams, another where you're stuck in current patterns and infinite variations between them. The question isn't whether these possibilities exist. They do exist. The question is which one you'll make real. And your consistent observation, your daily dedication to your own identity and habits, is what brings them into existence. This is where most people deceive themselves. They believe they're just objectively observing reality, but what they're really doing is selecting which version of themselves and their reality continues to manifest. When you wake up and immediately review your problems, revisit your limitations, and reinforce your current story, you're not just witnessing what is. You're actively choosing what continues to be. You're casting a vote for that specific version of yourself and that timeline to remain your reality. Day after day, we engage in identical thought patterns, trigger the same emotional responses, and perpetuate familiar behavioral cycles. We continuously focus our attention on our current situation, and, through this repetitive observation, unconsciously recreate the same reality, infinitely. This doesn't happen because we want to remain the same, but because we haven't discovered how to redirect our perceptual lenses. Imagine, however, if you possessed this knowledge. What would happen if you stopped seeing your existence through filters of scarcity, fear, or failure, and began observing with purposeful intention, unshakable confidence, and genuine admiration? What if instead of fixating on what's absent, you trained yourself to perceive the unlimited potential within you? What if instead of dwelling on past disappointments, you began tuning into the future that calls you forward? This represents the central invitation to conscious creation of your reality, and it begins at this exact moment. Reality isn't something that occurs independently of you. It manifests directly through your participation. The field of infinite possibilities doesn't respond to your verbal declarations or isolated positive thinking. It responds to what you consistently observe with focused energy, genuine emotion, and coherent intention. It's not processing your words, it's interpreting your energetic signature. So, let me ask this crucial question. Where are you directing your consciousness at every moment? Your focus operates like a powerful spotlight, illuminating one possible version of reality and your identity while leaving others in darkness. Are you casting light on anxiety, uncertainty, and limitation, or are you directing it toward appreciation of confidence and an expansive vision of who you can be? Here's a practical example that demonstrates this principle in action. Imagine two people facing a major change in their lives, like moving to a new city. Person A observes this event through the lens of limitation. They focus on the challenges of change, on what they're leaving behind, on the fear of not adapting, on the difficulty of making new friends. They emotionally engage with thoughts like, "Why am I doing this? I'll never feel at home here. I miss my old life." This person is observing their experience through the filter of loss and difficulty. Person B observes the same event through the lens of possibility. They focus on new opportunities, on the personal growth the change can bring, on the excitement of exploring the unknown, on the chance to reinvent themselves. They emotionally engage with thoughts like, "What's new for me here? This is my chance to be who I really want to be. I'm excited for what's to come." This person is observing their experience through the filter of adventure and potential. Both people experienced the same external circumstances, the move, but they're observing completely different realities and consequently creating distinct internal experiences. Person A is collapsing a timeline of struggle and limitation into their experience. Person B is collapsing a timeline of opportunity and expansion. The field of life responds to both with perfect precision, providing experiences that correspond to their sustained observation. It's not about blind positive thinking. It's about understanding that your observation literally determines which possibility becomes your lived experience. The truth is that life doesn't judge which observation is better or worse. It simply responds to whatever you focus on consistently with emotional intensity. This is why some people seem to embrace change effortlessly, while others struggle despite working hard to adapt. It's not about worth or luck. It's about which timeline, which version of themselves they're consistently observing into existence. Most individuals try to transform their circumstances by manipulating external conditions, but authentic transformation, genuine reality change, occurs when you revolutionize what you choose to consciously observe and the version of yourself that you nurture. Every time you emotionally invest in a particular thought about yourself, whether limiting or expansive, you're actively observing it into existence. When you repeatedly focus on what's not working well in your life, or on who you were and don't like, you're feeding those patterns with your energy, making them increasingly substantial. Conversely, every time you tune into elevated possibilities, even when they haven't yet manifested, you attract them toward physical expression. You initiate the process of collapsing potential into form. This isn't an illusion or fantasy. It's the very mechanics of self-evolution. As renowned neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza demonstrates, where you place your conscious attention determines where you direct your energy, and this energy becomes the instruction manual for the field of your life. Not your physical efforts, not your struggles, but your consciousness and your state of being. This understanding means you don't need to force your way to a transformed existence. You simply need to become the observer who perceives a new reality and a new identity already taking shape. You must develop confidence in this new reality. Your reality isn't rigid, it's malleable, responsive, and extremely sensitive to the quality of your focus. Since everything in your environment is waiting to be observed into concrete existence, what will you choose to perceive next? If you can feel that you're ready to stop observing your limitations and start consciously focusing on your potential, declare your transformation in the comments below. Write exactly, "I release who I was to become who I am." This isn't just a phrase, it's you declaring to the universe that you're ready to collapse a new timeline into your reality. This marks the beginning of an entirely new way of living, not as someone who waits for external circumstances to change to feel different, but as someone who consciously chooses how to interact with the field of possibilities, moment by moment, as a conscious observer and intentional creator. Let this be your starting point, because what unfolds next will permanently transform how you perceive, feel, and shape your reality. Your consciousness isn't limited to your physical brain. It transcends the boundaries of space, time, and circumstance. It serves as the invisible architect of reality, the silent creative intelligence that shapes forms from the field of pure potential. The external world you perceive isn't the source of your internal experience, it's the reflection of it. And this reflection process begins long before any physical action or event occurs. Pioneers in the study of the human mind, like Dr. Joe Dispenza himself, and other thought leaders have dedicated decades to connecting psychology with a deeper understanding of consciousness, demonstrating that your consciousness is the primary force, and your physical identity is secondary. This revolutionary perspective subverts conventional understanding about who you are. It transforms you from a passive witness into an empowered creator. But what does this actually look like in practice? It means that your focused intention and deliberate attention begin to convert possibilities into realities. The new identities you observe with sustained consciousness materialize in your physical form. The field around you remains neutral, but your consciousness provides direction. Your attention gives structure and meaning. In the realm of human creation, your attention serves as the observation mechanism. It doesn't require immediate physical action, it requires conscious presence. It doesn't demand specific techniques, it demands internal coherence. It doesn't depend on external circumstances, it depends on internal alignment and harmony. When your thoughts unite with feelings, when emotion merges with clear intention consciousness, you imprint a detailed blueprint in your life. This blueprint becomes the silent guideline that begins to restructure your internal landscape and eventually expresses itself externally in physical form. Some refer to this as goal setting or manifestation work. Others simply call it creation in action. But there's a crucial aspect to this process that most personal change teachings completely ignore. The field of your life doesn't just respond to your conscious intentions. It responds to your unconscious patterns too. Your unconscious programming often has more influence over your reality than your conscious desires, because it operates 24/7, while your conscious focus might be directed for only minutes each day. This is why people can visualize abundance or a new identity for 20 minutes every morning, but still live in financial hardship or feel trapped in their old version. Their conscious mind is observing prosperity or the new identity, but their unconscious mind is observing lack, unworthiness, and scarcity, or perpetuation of the old identity for the remaining 23 hours and 40 minutes. The field of life responds to the dominant signal, which is usually the unconscious programming running in the background. Understanding this changes everything about how you approach creating a new reality. It's not enough to occasionally focus on what you want. You need to be aware of what you're unconsciously observing throughout the day. Those automatic thoughts, those habitual emotional reactions, those familiar story loops are all acts of observation that are actively shaping your reality. This is where the practice becomes more sophisticated. You're not just learning to focus on what you want to be, you're also learning to become aware of the unconscious patterns that have been silently directing your life. You're developing the ability to catch yourself in the act of observing limitations and gently redirect your attention to possibilities. This is where ancient spiritual practices intersect with modern psychological observation. Joe Dispenza documents measurable changes in brainwave patterns, biological processes, and electromagnetic fields where individuals maintain coherent intention combined with authentic emotion. It's not your superficial thoughts that create reality, it's the energetic force behind your thoughts. It's not your spoken desires, but the sustained state that supports them. Consciousness operates beyond personal limits. It's non-local in nature. This means your consciousness can influence realities at a distance and even before things manifest in physical form. You don't need physical proximity, you need focused presence. You don't need external approval, you need unshakable inner certainty. This represents the paradigm shift that changes everything. The external world isn't the cause of your experience, it's the result of it. Your consciousness serves as the foundation, the fertile soil, and the seed of creation. The field of life provides the nourishing ground, and your observation is the gentle catalyst that allows potential to flourish and become reality. So, when you feel helpless or powerless, remember this truth. You are nothing less than powerful. You are an infinitely creative and conscious force, shaping reality through the precision of your attention and the clarity of your internal state. This is your invitation now to pause and breathe deeply, to bring awareness to your inner landscape, to recognize that consciousness isn't passive but profoundly creative, and that the reality you experience isn't simply happening to you, it's emerging through your participation. Creation doesn't originate from struggle. It begins with intentional focus in each moment. Your existence is being shaped by what you're consistently giving your energy to, not by what you claim to desire, not by what you occasionally hope for, but by what you habitually observe, react to, and emotionally engage with. Attention isn't neutral, it's magnetically powerful. Every moment you're conscious, you're calibrating your internal frequency, and this frequency transmits instructions to the field of your life. Your attention functions as a more potent instrument than physical determination, effort, or self-control, because energy follows consciousness. Wherever your attention is, your energy accumulates, intensifies, and begins to sculpt your field into tangible form. This explains why identical thoughts generate identical emotions, which trigger identical choices, which maintain identical realities. This isn't merely a metaphor, it's energetic physics in action. Your emotional focus determines the vibrational signature of your field. Thoughts don't simply describe your experience, they activate corresponding timelines and possibilities. So, when you persistently focus on what's broken in you, what's absent in your life, or what causes pain, or your old version, the field responds. Not through judgment, but through faithful reflection. If you continue observing your present circumstances as simply the way things are, or your identity as it's always been this way, you unconsciously strengthen and perpetuate them. Your internal state of observation becomes the blueprint for what the universe builds next. You look at current conditions, react emotionally, and through this cycle you observe the same patterns again. Identical input creates identical output. However, when you redirect your attention to new possibilities aligned with your highest vision of yourself and engage with emotional presence, you begin to bring an alternative version of yourself into reality. You stop repeating past patterns and start resonating with future potentials. This is the secret that few are willing to practice with dedication. Stop observing what currently exists and start observing what could exist, as if it already existed. This is how transformation begins. You're not pretending or deluding yourself. You're intentionally focusing. You're becoming the observer of an elevated pattern until that pattern stabilizes and materializes in physical form. Your old identity wants to constantly verify the facts of your current situation. It seeks to confirm fears, reproduce memories, and measure incremental progress. But your future self understands that the only authentic reality is what you emotionally stabilize within your consciousness. When you observe limitation, you amplify it. When you observe potential, you activate it. Here's the energetic transformation. Observation must become deliberate focus. It must become a sacred practice. You weren't placed here to mindlessly witness what already exists. You're here to witness the invisible into physical manifestation. Every time you offer your complete presence to what you want to experience, love, prosperity, harmony, vitality, and embody the emotional state of already possessing it, your attention becomes the activation key. Not hope, not positive thinking, but internal commitment to observe what the physical world hasn't yet reflected. This is the mastery of conscious creation, selecting what to perceive before it becomes visible, maintaining the frequency of your desired timeline before evidence appears. Not because you're delusional, but because the field of life responds to your observation, not to your current conditions or circumstances. Here's the empowering truth. You don't need to eliminate every limiting thought. You just need to become more committed to your desired focus than to your familiar fears. The field of life doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. It requires alignment between what you choose to observe, what you're focusing on, and who you're becoming internally. But let's be practical about what this means. Consistency actually doesn't mean maintaining perfect thoughts all the time, every moment of the day. That's impossible and unnecessary. Instead, it's about developing what we call coherence. A state where your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are aligned and working together rather than contradicting each other. Think of coherence like tuning a radio. When you're perfectly tuned to a station, you get clear, strong reception. When you're slightly off tune, you get static and interference. Your consciousness works the same way. When your conscious desires, emotional state, and unconscious beliefs are all aligned, you have perfect coherence, and the field of life responds quickly and clearly. When they're misaligned, you get mixed results or no results. Most people live in a state of incoherence without realizing it. They consciously want love, but unconsciously believe they're unworthy. They desire abundance, but emotionally vibrate with scarcity. They visualize success, but unconsciously expect failure. The field of life receives these mixed signals and responds with mixed results. A little progress here, a setback there, just enough to keep them hopeful, but not enough to create real transformation. Achieving coherence requires what I call self-awareness, the ability to observe not just your conscious thoughts, but the entire spectrum of your inner experience. This includes your emotional undertones, your unconscious beliefs, your energetic state, and the quality of your own attention. When you develop this level of awareness, you can begin to align all aspects of your consciousness toward a single desired outcome. The invitation is simple and revolutionary. Start monitoring your own focus as if it were a sacred navigation system. Interrupt the impulse to observe what you don't want. Redirect your attention from stories that cause suffering and, with compassion, dedication, and practice, place your consciousness where your soul is guiding you. Because what you choose to observe with genuine love inevitably becomes real. You were never simply positioned in this existence to passively watch events unfold. You came here to shape reality with your conscious presence. Many people continue believing they're waiting for something to change. Waiting for the career, the relationship, the health, the opportunity. But in the realm of your potential, nothing moves until you observe it in motion. Nothing materializes until your consciousness instructs the field. This is what I choose to stabilize and make real. This is the crucial moment when your identity transforms from someone reacting to reality to someone transforming it into form. You're not just watching this cosmic movie, you're directing it. You are simultaneously the lens, the light source, the script, and the screen itself. Every time you focus attention on something with emotional investment, you're assigning meaning. You're not simply perceiving it. You're collapsing a wave of possibility into a particle of reality and experience. This explains why certain patterns repeat continuously. You keep observing them, feeding them with focused attention, and the universe, being infinitely responsive, reflects them back. This isn't punishment. It's precise mechanics. The field of life isn't delivering what you deserve. It's delivering what you reinforce through observation, emotion, and identity. This is what makes you incredibly powerful and why many people unconsciously perpetuate cycles they no longer want. But here's the transformational shift. When you begin observing a new narrative for yourself, a narrative of who you're becoming, of your new capabilities, of your new possibilities, even before it exists physically, you begin incorporating new possibilities into reality. Not because you force them, but because you witness them with sufficient clarity of duration and emotional coherence that they had no choice but to respond. This is the essence of releasing the old for the new. Possibility transforms into presence, and it occurs through your conscious participation. When you truly understand that your observation possesses this magnitude of power, you stop delegating your transformation to external forces. You stop declaring, "When life provides me peace, I'll feel peaceful," and start affirming, "When I observe peace within myself, life will reflect that back to me." Imagine yourself observing two parallel realities. One timeline shows you still going through old emotions, validating your limitations, still cataloging everything that didn't work. The other timeline already exists, where you've become the version of yourself that is liberated, joyful, abundant, and loved. Both timelines exist simultaneously in the field of your potential, but only one materializes physically, the one you choose to observe with depth and unwavering devotion. This is what acting as if really means. It's not pretending or deluding yourself. It's choosing to observe what isn't yet visible until it becomes manifest. You become the one who creates when you stop reacting and start consciously deciding. When you examine your current circumstances and declare, This isn't the complete picture. I choose to observe something greater. You claim creative authority over your life. And as you persist, the gap between internal vision and external reality diminishes. What you previously imagined becomes what you begin to experience because you observed it as truth before physical evidence existed. Here's your invitation. Start observing your future self as if it were already present. Feel its energetic signature and visualize how it moves, how it communicates what it believes. Hold this image in your heart as if it were your current reflection, because in a universe governed by observation, the most magnetic thing you can accomplish is to clearly perceive what others don't yet see and become that vision. There comes a subtle but profound moment when you realize the universe isn't testing your worth, punishing your mistakes, or withholding blessings from you. It's simply responding to your energetic transmission. The field of life operates without emotion. It doesn't evaluate what you want and question whether you deserve it. It doesn't examine your history, your karmic debt, or your declared goals. It reads only one thing, your vibrational frequency, and reflects that frequency faithfully and precisely at every moment. This explains why life sometimes seems contradictory, because your conscious mind requests one experience, while your energetic vibration transmits something completely different. You can visualize financial abundance while vibrating with scarcity consciousness. You can affirm love while resonating with fears of rejection. You can imagine freedom while remaining emotionally attached to control, doubt, or comparison. The field of life doesn't argue or analyze. It simply reflects what you consistently embody energetically. It's not personal, it's purely vibrational mechanics. This represents the fundamental shift in understanding. Manifestation isn't about persuading the universe to grant your desires. It's about calibrating your energy to match the version of yourself that already possesses what you want. That version of you already exists, is already active in the field of possibilities. But you can't access it from a frequency that contradicts its essence. The field can't provide peaceful experiences through chaotic vibrations. It can't provide feelings of worthiness through emotions of doubt. It's not because you don't deserve it. It's because the vibrational frequencies simply don't align. So, what's the solution? You stop focusing on manipulating outcomes and start cultivating your internal state. You begin the sacred practice of observing your own thoughts, not judging them, but becoming aware of them. You tune into your emotional baseline, not just occasional feelings, but your habitual emotional state, because it's your baseline that transmits the signal. It's the frequency you maintain when no one is watching that establishes the foundation for your reality. When you take responsibility for your energetic output, everything transforms. You evolve from victim consciousness to creator consciousness. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me, Bursuri?" and start asking, "What am I vibrating that's attracting this experience?" Not through guilt or self-flagellation, but through awareness and empowerment. The field of life serves as your mirror, but most people continuously try to change the reflection without altering what they're showing the mirror. They try to manifest increased income without healing their scarcity stories. They seek romantic love without becoming someone who feels genuinely lovable. They try to transform their external world without ever examining their internal landscape, and the field continues responding accordingly. Here's your activation moment. Ask yourself immediately, what am I consistently observing? What am I emotionally repeating? What frequency am I living from, not just during meditation, but in daily life? It's not about achieving perfection. It's about maintaining consistency. It's about repeatedly choosing to return to the frequency of who you want to become until that frequency becomes natural and then becomes your reality. Take a moment right now to conduct what I call a reality audit. Throughout your typical day, what percentage of your attention is focused on problems versus possibilities? When you wake up, what's the first thing you observe? Your worries or your vision? When you're driving, are you rehearsing past conversations or imagining future successes? When you go to sleep, are you reviewing what went wrong or appreciating what went right? This audit isn't meant to judge you, but to become aware of where your attention habitually goes. Most people are shocked to discover that 80 to 90% of their daily observation is focused on what they don't want, what isn't working, or what they fear might happen. Then they wonder why their reality doesn't change. But here's what's fascinating. The moment you become aware of these patterns, they begin to lose their automatic power over you. Awareness itself is a powerful tool. When you catch yourself observing limitation or the old identity, you're no longer unconsciously feeding it with energy. You've created a gap, a space where choice becomes possible. In that gap, you can ask yourself a transformational question. If I knew that everything I observe with sustained emotional attention becomes my reality, what would I choose to focus on now? This simple question can redirect your entire life because it reminds you that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the conscious creator of them. When you recognize the neutrality of the field of life, you reclaim your complete personal power. Because if it's not judging you, it's also not limiting you. There are no energetic gatekeepers, only energetic agreements, and you can renegotiate them. Agreements that begin immediately. This understanding completely revolutionizes how you approach life's challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this showing me about my current observation patterns?" Each experience becomes feedback about your consciousness, rather than evidence of external forces working against you. Let me share a profound insight that changes everything. The universe isn't testing you to see if you're worthy of your dreams. It's not withholding your good to teach you lessons. It's simply and faithfully reflecting the sum total of your conscious and unconscious observations. This means every moment is an opportunity to redirect the course of your life by choosing what to observe. Consider how this applies to relationships. If you consistently observe people as untrustworthy, unreliable, or selfish, the field of life will continue reflecting experiences that confirm this observation. But if you begin observing people as fundamentally good, capable of growth, and deserving of love, you'll begin attracting experiences that correspond to this new observation. The same people might even begin showing up differently in your life, because you're literally evoking different aspects of their nature through your observation. This principle applies to every area of life: health, finances, career, creativity. Your body responds to how you observe it. Money flows according to how you observe it. Opportunities appear based on how you observe the world around you. This isn't magical thinking, it's the mechanics of life applied to daily living. With each breath, each belief, each moment of conscious presence, you're casting votes to the field of your potential. You're declaring, "This is my identity." And the universe responds, "Your wish has been granted." Let this be your transformation. You don't need to earn your ideal life. You just need to match its frequency, you need to transmit it consistently, and you need to do it with the emotional authenticity of someone who already embodies it. This is why this moment is significant. This is your opportunity to stop reacting and start radiating. Stop pleading and start transmitting. Stop explaining and start embodying. because the field is perpetually listening and responding. Within you exists a space that remains unmoved by appearances and unshaken by circumstances. It's the aspect of you that simply observes, without panic, without projection, without mental noise. This is the frequency of the silent observer, and it contains more power than any effort you've ever made. The silent observer doesn't try to manifest through force or pressure. It doesn't chase results or resist the present moment. It understands something deeper, that reality reorganizes not through noise, but through stillness. Not through demanding, but through witnessing with pure presence. In the realm of your potential, everything exists as potential, a wave of infinite probabilities. But this wave doesn't become real because you struggle or strain. It becomes real when you observe with crystal clarity, when you perceive with unshakable certainty, when your presence becomes coherent with your desires. This explains why many people strive for years to create change, but feel like nothing changes. Because they're still observing their current life with resistance, still observing their fears more intensely than their future possibilities. The field of life obeys whatever lens you look through consistently. The power isn't contained in your spoken words. It's embedded in the frequency from which you observe. When you tune into the field of life as the silent observer, detached from panic, freed from judgment, and anchored in faith, you become magnetically attractive. Things you used to chase begin moving toward you, not because you increased your efforts, but because you became more empty of noise and more full of pure being. This isn't passive. It's one of the most active disciplines you can cultivate, witnessing your life without falling into the illusion that what you see represents the final outcome. Holding space for what wants to emerge, even when there are no visible signs yet. Remaining centered while the world shifts around you because you're no longer waiting. You're aligning with what's already yours. The silent observer isn't disconnected. It's radically connected, but without the desperation that distorts your energy signal. It observes from an elevated perspective, with calm, knowing that each scene continues unfolding in such a way that nothing becomes fixed until you observe it with your soul's recognition. In this frequency, you remember that reality isn't an external force to you. It's an echo of your consciousness. The more silent, certain, and coherent your consciousness becomes, the clearer and more precise the echo. How do you live from this elevated state? You begin by practicing pure presence. You train your nervous system to feel safe in uncertainty. You release the habit of constant analytical thinking. You observe your thoughts like passing clouds, allowing them to move through you without grasping or resisting. You breathe more deeply and slow your pace. You repeatedly return to the part of you that simply sees with clarity. And from this pure vision, creation flows naturally. The world will continue offering distractions. Old patterns will try to reclaim your attention. The ego will whisper that you're not doing enough. But each time you return to the frequency of the silent observer, you restore perfect alignment. You remind the field of life who's leading this dance, and you witness life reorganizing itself to match your vibrational signature. This is the authentic source of power. You don't need to manipulate outcomes. You don't need to perform practices from anxiety or desperation. You simply need to observe with heart, with presence, and with unshakable belief. Because in this frequency, you're no longer separate from what you seek. You become the field itself, awakening to your own creative nature. The moment you truly realize this, the old version collapses, the illusion dissolves, and the miracle manifests. If you recognize it's time to assume your role as conscious creator of your reality, if you can feel the silent observer within you awakening, then make a declaration of sovereignty in the comments. Write simply, "I am the creator of my reality. Nothing more, nothing less." This declaration activates your manifestation frequency and aligns you with the infinite field of possibilities. Here's your final invitation. Release the need for external proof. Become the presence that naturally attracts what you desire. Release effort and embody frequency. Don't just visualize the life of your dreams. Observe it from the space within you that knows it's already real and present. Because the silent observer doesn't create accidentally. It creates through coherence. It chooses what to observe with intention and then watches that vision come to life. Let this be your fundamental signal of change in how you engage with your world and an activation of the creator you've always understood yourself to be.